Good morning, class. I am your teacher, VI-JYVI Espadon, or you can call me Sir JV. So now, for the continuation of our orientation, we will tackle the three different types of grading system. We have manual grading system, we have also a Eclass grading system, and lastly, we have a pandemic grading system. So class, as you observe, I have here the example of grading system or manual grading system. So here we have three components in manual grading system. We have the written work, the performance task, and the quarterly assessment. In written work, we have 20%. In performance task, we have 60%. And in quarterly assessment, we have 20%, a total of 100%. So here, class, I have the example of manual grading system. In manual grading system, we have written works, performance tasks, and quarterly assessment. So here, assuming that you have a score. So here in written works, I have 3 quizzes. Here in performance tasks, we have 3 performance. And here in quarterly exam, we have a 1 periodic exam. Okay? So here, in my written works, assuming that you have score, the highest possible score in my quiz is 10, 20, 30, a total of 60. Assuming that Mr. Unko got a score of 6 out of 10, 19 out of 20, 30 out of 25, a total of 50. So the same, Mr. Pula, Miss Niego, Miss Valenzuela, and Miss Yap. You have a assuming score here. So in order for me to get your percentage score, we have a formula. So here is your row score. Row score will be divided to the total score or the highest possible score. So the total score here in my quizzes is 60. So row score will be divided into total score of 60 will be multiplied to the percentage score. Percentage score is 100 is equals to total percentage. Okay, class? So we have also a weighted score here. Weighted score here is 20%. And in order for me to get your weighted score, we will do this formula or this process. The total percentage score will be multiplied to 0.20. Here is 20%, so is equals to 0.20. And in order for you to have a weighted score. So now we will get the percentage score of Mr. Ongko. So the row score of Mr. Ongko or the total score of Mr. Ongko is 50 out of 60. So now we will solve here. 50 will be divided to the total score or the highest possible score of 60 and will be multiplied to 100 in the percentage score. So I have here a calculator in order for me to easy to solve. 50 divided to 60 multiplied to 100 equals to 83.33. 83.33. So this is the percentage score of Mr. Ungko. 83.33. So now, Mr. Ungko have a percentage score now. So we will get the weighted score of Mr. Ongko. So this is the process. The total percentage score multiplied to 0.20 and equals to a weighted score. Total percentage score is 83.33 multiply to 0.20. Okay. 83.33 times 0.20 20. 16.66 is equals to 16.66. Now the weighted score of Mr. Ungko is 16.66. So the same process in Mr. Pula, Miss Niago, Miss Valenzuela, and Miss Yap. In order for me to get your percentage score and weighted score, so this is how I'm going to solve. So now, Mr. Ongko has a 86 percentage score. So in order for me to get his weighted score, we will do this formula. Okay, so the total percentage score is 86. 86 will be multiplied to 0.60. Here is 60% because in the performance test we have a 60%. Equals to 86 times 0.60 is equals to 51.6. 51.6. Now, Mr. Ungko have a weighted score of 51.6 in his performance. Okay? So, the same process here in Mr. Pula, Niego, Venezuela, and Miss Yang. So, in order for me to get your percentage score and the weighted score, we will do this process. Okay? So here, we will get the quarterly assessment of Mr. Ungko, the percentage score and the weighted score. So here, I have one periodic exam that I'm given to you, assuming that this is your score. Mr. Ungko is 46 out of 50. So we will get the percentage score now. Row score is 46 divided by 50 multiply in 100 equals to 46 divided by 50 and multiply by 100. Got a 92 or equals to 92. So now the percentage score of Mr. Ungko is 92. So we will get the weighted score. In order to get the weighted score, the total percentage score will be multiplied to 0.20. 0.20 is here, the 20%, because in quarterly assessment, we have only a 20%. Okay, so total percentage score is 92 multiply to 0.20. 92 multiply to 0.20 is equals to 18.4. Equals to 18.4. So now the weighted score of Mr. Ungko is 18.4. So as what I said, the same process to the rest of the students. So class, we have done now getting the written works, the performance tasks, and the quarterly assessment. So now we will get the initial grade. Okay, so the initial grade. So in order for me to get your initial grade, we will add the weighted score in written works, the weighted score in performance tasks, and the weighted score in quarterly assessment. So here, we will add the 3 weighted score. 16.66, the 51.6, and the 18.4. In order for us to get the initial grade. So now we have the 3 weighted score now. So 16.66 plus 51.6 plus 18.4 is equals to 86.66. 86.66. So here, the initial grade of Mr. Ungko is 86.66. So, the same process to Mr. Pula, Miss Niego, Miss Valenzuela, and Miss Yap. Class, so Mr. Unco initial grade is 86.66. So, but this is not the final grade because this is only a initial grade. So, we will use the transmutation table from the DepEd. So, here I have the transmutation table. Here is the initial grade and here is the transmuted grade. So, here we will find the initial grade of Mr. Unco. So, here, from 85.60 to 87.19. Because Mr. Onko is 86.66, so between in 85.60 to 87.19. So we will transmute his grades is equals to 91. So the quarterly grade or the final grade of Mr. Onko is 91. So that's the use of transmutation table given by the DepEd. So class, the same process in other students to Mr. Pula, Miss Niego, and Miss Valenzuela, and Miss Yap. So this is how I solved all of your grades from written works to performance tasks to quarterly assessment. So now we have done in manual grading system. So do you have any question or suggestions in solving your scores and grades? Okay, if none, so now we will proceed to the electronic class grading system and the pandemic grading system. Hi class, so now we will continue to our discussion. So now we will proceed to the Eclass record and the pandemic grading system. But class, I'm so sorry if my screen is blurred because I don't have any high quality camera in my laptop, okay? So but don't mind because we will discuss first here the E-class record. Okay, so let's just share my screen first. Okay. So here. Okay, now so as you can see on your I know this is a pandemic class record. Okay, so now as you can see on your screen, now you have a E-class record or the E-class grading system. We have three components here, the same with the manual grading system. First, we have a written works 20%, performance tasks 60%, and a quarterly assessment 20%. Okay, so the same process in solving your grades here. But the purpose of this E-class record class with the use of Excel is to make the life of teacher easier to solve your grades and scores. Because here we have a formula and the formula is given. Okay? So, assuming that Mr. Pula, Miss Niego, Miss Superioridad, and Miss Yap have yet already scored. So, but Mr. Unco doesn't have yet. So, let's just example. Okay, here I have 5 written works. I have 5 written works here, and then in the performance I have 4 tasks, and then the quarterly assessment I have a 1 periodical exam given to you. So assuming that Mr. Pula have already scored. In Mr. Unco, let's just put here a 9 out of 10. Here is, let's just put 17 out of 20. Here is 19 out of 20. I'm so sorry, Mr. Onko, but it's an already a example because I know you are brilliant students, but we will example here to put your scores. Okay, so here in 15, let's just put here 14 out of 15, and then here in 30, you will get 27 out of 30. Okay, so now you have a assuming scores and percentage score and weighted score here because the E-class record class is automatically because of the formula. Okay, so the total of my written works here is 95. So the total score of Mr. Unco is 59. So why they come up in a percentage score of 62.11 because 59 will be divided to 95 and multiplied to 100. Okay, class, the same process in manual grading system. 86 will be divided to 95, will be multiplied to 100 is equals to 90.53. So Mr. Unko now have a percentage score of 90.53. So here in weighted score, why Mr. Unko weighted score is 18.11? Because 90.53 multiplied to 20% or in decimal point 0.20. So 90 multiplied to 0.20, the result is 18.11. So that's the weighted score of Mr. Unko. Okay, so the same process to Mr. Pula and to the other students. So here in the performance task, we have a 4 tasks. So let's just put here Mr. Ongko's score is 12 out of 15 and 9 out of 10, 7 out of 10, and 9 out of 10. Okay. So Mr. Ongko now is total score in performance task is 28. So the total score of my performance task that I'm giving to you is 45. So the total score of Mr. Unko is 37. So Mr. Unko is have a 82.22 percentage score. Why Mr. Unko got a 82.22? Because this 37 will be divided to 45 and multiplied to 100. Okay? So this 37 will be divided to 45 and multiplied by 100 is equals to 82.22. The same process in here in written works and in manual grading system. So now the weighted score of Mr. Unko is 49.33. So here in quarterly assessment, Mr. Unko got a score of 38 in my periodical exam because this is a showing score. And his percentage score is 76. Why 76? Because 38 divided to 50 and multiplied by 100. Okay, so the total score of my periodical exam is 50 and Mr. Unko got 38. So 38 divided to 50 multiplied to 100, the result is 76. So why Mr. Unko weighted score in quarterly exam is 15.20? Because 76 will be multiplied to 20% or in decimal point 0.20, the result is 15.20. Okay? So the same process class in Mr. Pula, Miss Niego, Miss Prioridad, and Miss Yap. This is your assuming score and grade. Okay? So here you have a initial grade. Again, class, this is initial grade and this is not a final grade. The same in manual grading system that I've been discussed to you. Okay, so Mr. Unko got a 82.64, Mr. Pula 89.95, and so on and so forth. So in order to get your quarterly grade or your final grade, we will use the transmutation table. So again, class, that as you can see, the transmutation table that I've been presenting in my manual grading system, the initial grade is transmuted. And this transmutation table is given by the DepEd. So if you have a initial grade of 82.64, you will get a quarterly grade of 89. Okay, so if you have a 89.85, you will get a 93. So that's the purpose of transmutation table. Okay, so class, if you have, do you have any questions or suggestions regarding with this topic? Kindly raise your hand or open your mic so that may I know. Okay, if none, so let's proceed to the pandemic class grading system. I hope you will learn here, okay? So now we will proceed to the pandemic grading system. Okay, so let me... Okay, so class, now as you can see, you have on your screen, we have now a pandemic class grading system. Okay, so as you observe, we have only two components here, the written works and the performance task. The quarterly assessment is eliminated because we have no experiencing a pandemic and it's hard for us to have a quarterly assessment. And this pandemic grading system is approved by the DepEd and given also by the DepEd. So the 20% of uh, quarterly assessment is divided here. The 10% is added to written works, which is 30% now, and then the 10% is added to performance tasks, which is 70% now, because the pandemic grading system is more based on performance. So now, again, assuming that you have score here, Mr. Pula, Ms. Niego, Mr. Prioridad, and Ms. Yap, but Mr. Ongko doesn't have yet. So let's just give an example here. Okay, so Mr. Ongko, you have now score here in written work. I have 5 written work here, as you can see, and then the performance here, I have already 5 that I'm given to you. This is the possible score here, 20, 10, 30, 50, and 50. Okay, so in the written works, out of 20, Mr. Ungko got a 18. Out of 10, Mr. Ungko got out of 9. And in 30, Mr. Ungko's score is 27. In 50, Mr. Ungko's score is 29. So as you can see, there is a total and percentage score and weighted score also, because class, again, this Excel is makes our lives easier to solve your grades because we have formula. Okay, so the difference of manual grading and E-class record and grading system is in solving your grades, because in manual we will solve your grades one by one, and it's a long process, and it's very effort. While in E-class, or with the use of Excel, and in pandemic, with the use also of Excel, it is easy for us to solve your score. Okay, so here Mr. Ongko, out of 50, I got out of 50, got a score of 45. Okay, Mr. Ongko, I'm so sorry if your score is but I know you're a brilliant student. I'm so sorry. But it's an example, okay? It's just an example. Okay, so the total written works that I'm given to you is 160, and the total score of Mr. Unko is 128. So why Mr. Unko percentage score is 80? Because 128 will be divided to 160 and multiplied to 100. The same process class in E-class and in manual grading system. Okay, so 128 divided to 160 and multiplied to 100. So now he got a 80 percentage score. And in his weighted score, he got 24, because 80 will be multiplied to 30%, or in decimal point, 0.30. Okay, so 80 divided to, multiplied to 30% equals to 24. Okay, so here in performance, I have 5 performance tasks that I'm given to you, assuming that other students have scores and grades, but Mr. Onko doesn't have yet. Let's just put here a 9, just put here 7, 8, 8, and get a perfect score, 10. Okay, so a total of 32. The total of my performance test is 50, but Mr. Onko got a 42. So in order to solve his percentage score, so why he have a 84%? Because 42 divided to 50 and multiplied to 100 equals to 84. Okay, so here weighted score of Mr. Unko is Mr. Unko is 58.80, because 84 will be multiplied to 70%, or in decimal point, 0.70. Okay, so 84 multiplied to 0.70 is equals to 58.80. So that's the weighted score of Mr. Unko. So in order to get your initial grade, or why this is your initial grade, because the weighted score here in written works and the weighted score of performance tasks will be added. So let's just an example. Mr. Unko got a 24 weighted score here, and here is 58.80 weighted score will be added, and the result is 82.80. But class, again, this is not your final grade because this is only a initial grade. And here is your final grade or the quarterly grade with the use of transmutation table. So as you can see, if you have initial grade 82.80, now you have a 89. If you have 81.31, now you have a 88 because it's transmuted. And this is given by the DepEd. So class in Miss Niego, 89.25, got a score of 93. It's 87.01, got 91, and so on in so far kay Miss Ya. Okay? So class, this is the three different types of grading system. So if you have key questions or suggestions or any violent reactions, can you please tell now or please open your mic to speak? Okay, I think none. So class, now we have done to discuss the three different types of grading system. And I hope you learn about with this. And I hope someday or in solving your grades or your grading, we cannot have a conflict. I'm so sorry, class, but at my end here we have a brownout. I'm so sorry. So let's just end here, okay? Again, I am JV Villanova Aspadon, your teacher for today. Thank you. Okay, so let me end my share screen. Thank you for listening.